it's a guy thing, I don't know.
All right, hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Gottschall. I am your Lower Paxton Township manager. In typical fashion, I'm going to give a brief summary of this evening's agenda, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching at home on television. Tonight is a business session of the board. They have just a couple of items on the agenda. First, to include under old business, the board will take action to select a venue for the 2025 fireworks display. Following that, under new business, the board will take action to adopt Resolution 2025-02, which amends the municipal services fee schedule. Following that, the board will take action to approve the payment of the township and authority bills, hear any final announcements, and then finally make a motion to adjourn. With all that said, members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business. Thank you very much.
We'll call to order tonight's meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors. It's a business meeting. I'm the Vice Chair, Chris Judd. Will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance started by Mr. Navarro.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did meet in executive session to receive information prior to tonight's meeting. We also met after the last meeting, we had executive after that meeting concluded. I do not anticipate having executive session after tonight's meeting. Approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion approval of the minutes? The 11/19/24 business, 11/26/24 budget minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Public comment. Public comment. This is for items not on the agenda. Obviously, we do have a couple things on the agenda. Are there people here to talk about fireworks? Okay. All right. Well, that'll be coming up later. I think I talked to a lot of you already. I said at the prior meeting that I didn't think there was a majority support to move the fireworks. I still don't, but we'll find out. Then public comment for items, for issues not on the agenda. Just ask that you, yes, sir, give your name. I guess I should remind everyone about, we rarely bring this up, but we do have a public speaking policy. Everybody around here is well behaved. Just some of the highlights. Limited to 5 minutes. If it's really crowded, we could make it 3 minutes. We usually don't have to do that, but we want to make sure everybody gets to speak. Make sure you speak at the podium. We don't want yelling out. Like I said, normally we're very well behaved. No yelling out. Just go to the podium, give your name, and obviously stick to township business.
Yep. Good morning. My name is William Stephen Johnson. I reside at 6705 Conway Road. I'm going to try to keep this to 5 minutes. I've had issues with the compost site, Lower Paxton Township compost site, since it opened. Over the years, I've been to numerous meetings, filing complaints, and nothing has ever really been done to my satisfaction. And I recently was advised by the board to send a letter. And so I want to read that letter into record and then read the response that I received that I deem is unfavorable. But so I'm going to read as quickly as possible. The letter went out to Lower Paxton Township, attention Bradley Gottschall and the Board of Supervisors. Also copied in Justin Fleming, our Representative Justin Fleming, that is, Senator Patty Kim, Carrie Fleming, Mark Botero from DEP, and Victor Banks, President of Hodges Heights Association, where I live. Good day, Brad. This letter is in response to your request for a detailed summary of the issues I am experiencing with the Lower Paxton Township compost site. Background. Prior to the compost site opening, the township held meetings with residents from Hodges Heights. They assured us that the noise and other nuisances would be kept to a minimum and would be enforced by the Department of Environmental Protection. However, after making complaints to DEP, I was informed that they could only enforce township noise ordinances. Unfortunately, at that time, the township did not have any noise ordinances, rendering their assurances meaningless. I'll interject, they are also required to monitor and enforce anything leaving the site. Initially, the drop-off site and the grinding of yard waste occurred just inside the lower gate of the compost site, where it was only accepted, the waste was only accepted by township residents. Despite my frequent complaints, the township only expanded the operation to accept yard waste from outside the township. When the new homes were being built in Kendall Oaks, the drop-off site and the grinding area was moved closer to behind my house. A massive dirt berm was constructed to protect the new homes at Kendall Oaks residents from the noise and unsightliness of the compost site. Over the years, I have reached out numerous times to the Environmental Protection Agency, the township, about the noise, the dust, the hours of operation. Despite my valid complaints, the township continued to expand the operation. I requested these issues to be resolved: excessive noise generated from the muffled grinder, trucks rolling down the uneven roads, trucks banging their tailgates, backup alarms, front-end loaders banging the bucket, re-grinding of the mulch, even the leaf suction truck discharging in the residential neighborhood. Movement of waste off-site onto my property. At times, my property is often unusable due to the amount of particulate matter in the air from grinding of the material and trucks rolling through the site. This results in respiratory issues, which limits the amount of time spent in the yard. A study should be conducted to determine the impact on human health. Also, unsightly views. There is little foliage to block the view of the work trucks, more noticeable in the winter months. The berm built for Kendall Oaks residents removed this condition for them. Odors. At times, there are foul odors emanating from the facility when turning piles, or from occasional smoldering within the piles. At times, all-out fires have occurred. Note, backup alarms are designed to emit alerts between 97 and 112 decibels for safety purposes. This level exceeds the residents' noise limit of 60 decibels in Lower Paxton Township. Other noises escaping the site also exceed this limit. So the request for action was, I requested the township take immediate action to correct the issues. If they cannot be remediated, the site should be relocated. As was noted by residents complaining of noise levels exceeding 60 decibels from Shiny Shell, this site should be given the same scrutiny. Please reduce noise levels at all times to less than 60 decibels, reduce the dust, and possibly plant evergreen trees along the roadside or inside the landfill to create an additional barrier for dust and unsightly views. I also request a noise study and strongly consider moving the site as far as possible from homes in Hodges Heights to meet compliance with township regulations. I recommend the township apply for a DEP technical assistant grant, $7,500, which could be used to analyze and address the noise issue. The Hodges Heights community and the current board supervisors find themselves in this situation because the compost site was wrongfully acquired from Mr. Hodge in the 1960s with the intention of creating a residential park. Instead, it was rezoned and turned into a landfill. Despite its proximity to the residential area, this African-American community had no voice in the 1960s. When this decision was made, nor during the years the landfill operated with its associated stench, rats, noise, the site was only shut down by DEP due to potential groundwater contamination. Any funds generated from this operation should have been used to address these current issues. Signed, stressed and frustrated by myself. The response I received recently from the Board of Trustees was, while we do not yet have the financial consultant's report of the facility, We are nearing the end of the process. We are in receipt of draft comments. As we requested a copy of your concerns quite some time ago, during the active consultation process, I am no longer able to fully guarantee that they will be addressed or considered within the final third-party review. We will do our best to ensure they are provided due consideration and inclusion in the report, however. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I wish to thank you for providing your input on this matter as directly relates to your property. Sincerely, Bradley Godshaw. And again, as a longtime tax-paying resident of Hodges Heights, I am very disturbed by the response from Mr. Godshaw. I assume it was backed by some members of the board. I have been fighting these issues for years because it has taken me over a month to gather data and present it formally in a letter to the township. You can no longer guarantee me that the township can resolve these issues. Trucks or the grinders creating dust that continue to leave the site and land on my property, my cars, my furniture, the pool, and when the noise exceeds 65 decibels that are generated by the various sources within the compost site, such as the grinder, banging of tailgates, and etc., and I am supposed to live with it while the township just expands their operations. I put the blame on both DEP and the township for allowing this in the first place. Both of my sons carry a rescue inhaler, which I believe is the direct result of the compost site. I wish my son could be here today. When they were young, when the dust would escape, they'd run back to the house. What really concerns me is now all the particulate matter from the grinding that we don't actually visually see, but it lands on the cars, it's on the house, and how much of that they have breathed in over the years. There's no history in my family of any respiratory issues. And I just want, we have other neighbors that live there with kids out back. I sent a video to the township showing a truck going down and a massive cloud of dust just pouring over into my backyard. And once again, I am asking the board to do the right thing to correct this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Michael Liptak. I live at 6030 Station Circle Road, and I had the privilege of serving 12 years on this Board of Supervisors, back before some of you were even born. But I'm here this evening particularly concerned about the fact that the former chairwoman resigned, and the reason she resigned, and if I can quote from the newspaper article, she said, "It is apparent the Board of Supervisors and the management of Lower Paxton Township does not have the best interests of the township residents, the employees, and the first responders of the township in their number one priority." And that was the reason she gave for resigning from the board. Last week, in watching your meeting, which I do on many occasions, it's easier for me to watch them from home than from in here. There were, I believe, two, in my opinion, I think it was two folks that came to the podium and were wondering why they weren't getting responses to their emails or to their questions of the manager's office. And I don't know at this point whether, in fact, they have received responses. But the thing that's most concerning is that if the lines of communication do not work between the citizens of Lower Paxton Township and the management and the Board of Supervisors, then you are not meeting your responsibilities. And I will close with a statement that actually, it's not really a statement. This is taken from the second-class township code, and it tells what the duties of the supervisors are. I'm sure all of you think you know all of that. But you're charged with the general governance of the township and execution of legislative, executive, and administrative powers in order to ensure sound fiscal management and to secure the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the township. I admonish all of you to please keep that in mind, because based upon what Mrs. Lindsay said and even the former speaker said, I think there may be some need for an improvement in that part of your system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latek.
I can't see everybody's face, so I'm going to move to the side.
Can you move
And
the
I
mic
think I
to?
speak
Yeah,
loud
there you-
enough for
there
you
you
to
go.
hear me. First of all, I want
Just give your name and address, please.
I'm Cheryl Thompson, and I live at 110 Memorial Drive in Amber Fields. I wanted to come up and first give you kudos for, I got a response. I want you to know, because
I apologize then.
no, you don't have to apologize, because I've been coming here for 8 months, and this is the first time that I have seen people respond in writing. People called me on my phone and left me text message. So I'm going to give kudos to those people. The public service who took care of my road, someone called me and told me all the information I needed. Then to Director Adams, I can never say your last name, so he called me and responded to me, okay? And then thirdly, I watched for 8 months Mrs. Lindsay conduct meetings in a orderly manner. Bill Miller gave out my secret. I am a school teacher, so I observe all of your behaviors. And some of your behaviors, if you were in a classroom, you would be reprimanded for the way you behave. Even if you're unhappy with a person, you give them due respect. There are people I don't agree with, but I give them respect. And I expect you to give them respect because you represent me. That means if you leave this area and you go and represent me at another township meeting or group, I expect you to be well behaved. And some of you aren't well behaved, even though you're adults. Okay? I'm going to end with this. Oh, I want to say we also need to continue to get something in writing. Dr. Stewart asked some questions. This is the first, am I right, Dr. Stewart? Yes, ma'am, you are. We asked for something within a 2 to 3 week response. Please make sure that he receives it in writing. I would appreciate that, even though it's not for me. It's for us, okay? And then I would like to say, there must be some type of training that is given to be the township manager, your business manager. I don't know if you take refresher courses, but there might be something that you do as a refresher so that you know certain things. And then I want to know, do you meet with other township managers? And how do they handle the situation we are now currently in? So, not any disrespect, but I'm expecting an improvement. So I'm going to keep coming, and I'm going to keep grading you, and I'm going to expect you to do better, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm short as well. Hopefully you can see me and hear me.
Name and address.
Marisa White, 6702 Delano Boulevard, and I'm from Hodges Heights. Good evening again. This petition for a vote of no competence and the currently appointed Lower Paxton Township Manager, Mr. Bradley Gutshaw, and his immediate dismissal. This is addressed to the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors, Mr. Chris Judd, Mr. Paul Navarro, Mrs. Pamela Thompson, Mr. Alan McCormick. And thank you for your email, Mr. McCormick. We, the undeserved voters, residents, business owners, and concerned citizens of Lower Paxton Township hereby submit this petition to formally express our vote of no confidence for the currently appointed Township Manager, Mr. Bradley Gutshaw. Whereby Mr. Bradley Gutshaw has demonstrated consistent ineffectiveness in fulfilling the responsibilities of the position. Whereby Mr. Bradley Gutshaw has demonstrated a sustained failure to engage with community members in a timely and courteous manner. Whereas Mr. Bradley Gutshaw continues to lack professional negotiation skills, resulting in increased costs and inconveniences for township residents, taxpayers, and stakeholders. Whereas Mr. Bradley Gutshaw has repeatedly demonstrated a disregard for public concerns and has substituted his own personal preferences in place of the express well-being of Lower Paxton Township residents and elected representatives. Whereas Mr. Bradley Gutshaw lacks transparency in conducting township business, even to the exclusion of the elected Board of Supervisors. Whereas Mr. Bradley Gutshaw has publicly expressed his contempt for the elected Board of Supervisors and his perception of their lack of strong leadership. Whereas Mr. Bradley Gutshaw has created a culture of fear and hostility among township employees, first responders, in addition to perpetuating the desperate treatment of women in leadership roles. Therefore, we, the unserved voters, residents, taxpayers, employees, business owners, and concerned citizens demand the following remedy. In consideration of Mr. Gutshaw's pattern of poor decision-making, mismanagement of township affairs, and a lack of responsiveness to critical issues affecting our community, in consideration of Mr. Gutshaw's inability to adequately address infrastructure concerns, public safety, and community development initiatives leading to stagnation and dissatisfaction among residents. In consideration of Mr. Gutshaw's insubordinate behavior and lack of respect and regard for the women who have been elected by the residents to lead and direct the business of the township. In consideration of the resulting erosion of public trust, our continued decline in confidence due to Mr. Gutshaw's dismissive attitudes, his lack of accountability, and his failure to uphold the best interests of the township. We demand the immediate consideration of this vote of no confidence by the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors. We demand the Board of Supervisors proceed with an action to immediately remove Mr. Bradley Gutshaw from his appointed position as Township Manager. We, the unsigned, urge the Board of Supervisors to take this swift and decisive action to restore our confidence and establish effective leadership in Lower Paxton Township for the benefit of its residents, employees, first responders, and for the future growth of the township. Signed this 18th day of February, 2025. And for those in the audience, I have a petition if you'd like to sign. If you don't, you can just pass it along.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? All right.
Hello, my name is Dr. Charles Stewart. I live at 1440 Karen Drive. I don't like giving out my address. I guess that's 24 years of law enforcement. I don't want nobody coming up to my house. So call first or you may get shot. It's a hard act to follow some of the things that are said here. I've been in this community for over 21 years. I love my community. I love the people in my community. It was a great move by Laura Paxton to hire Adam Kashiba, bring his crew in, because I had an issue, I had a race issue, and I took it to him, and he acted immediately on that issue. And I think that was probably 6 years ago. And I thought that was amazing, and I thought my Board of Supervisors were doing the same thing. You guys have got a public relations problem, major problem, and I'm not pointing fingers, but this is not what I expect out of government in my community. It's not. I never come to the meetings because I thought you guys had it handled, but you don't. So I'm letting you know, I'm throwing my hat in for this position as board supervisor. And I'm coming hard, because there need to be changes. There's got to be changes. We just can't continue to go on like this. Again, I'm not pointing fingers, but Mr. Godchill, people are pointing a lot of fingers at you, bro. So I don't know, and I want to thank Supervisor Thompson. She has directed me in some ways in which I've asked questions about. She's gotten back to me on time. She's come by to my office when I asked her to inquire about the process. And I'm really pleased, and thank you for doing that. But this is my community too. You get too wrapped up into who's Republican and who's Democrat, and don't think about what's in the best interest of our community. And that's a main flaw. And going to the appointment, you know, when I told people that I were going to come and run for this office, they said, well, you'll never get appointed. I'm like, why? I got a vita. I'm a doctor. I got education. I got years of experience. I'm disabled military veteran, retired military, retired law enforcement, running an national organization. So why wouldn't I be considered? I'm sorry?
I'll vote for you.
Thanks, sir. My man.
And Dr. Stewart, can I just continue, but
Yes.
as far as overt political, now you're talking partly about seeking the application and other things, but we don't want overt political campaign speeches.
Okay.
So, but I know what you're saying.
I can get back on my sewer issue, but I just thought I'd keep it there because
Yeah,
that sewer
well-
issue ain't getting resolved either. So, but I understand.
Well, you're on my list for a phone call.
I'm just, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I want you to know that I'm disappointed in you. And I want to look you in the face and tell you, I'm not paying your sewer bill. So you might as well just keep that stuff away from me. But we need better from our community. Thank you.
All right. This gentleman in the back's been waiting a long time. Okay.
I just want to make sure I understood something from the last meeting. My name is Alfonso Razai, and I reside at 631 Lancaster Avenue in relationship to the Claremont change in the neighborhood commercial area. I just want to be sure, we said that I understood that it is going back to the planning board for recertification of that.
Send us something without this particular zoning issue in it, because there are other things that need to be done.
All right, then, but what I'm saying is, we were told that it goes back to the zoning for re-review. And it's also, I wanted to establish the fact that in that issue, we also don't want to have the neighborhood commercial definition changed either.
Yes.
Because that would change some things that would be for the worst of the community.
Yes.
All right. I just want to be sure I understood that and make that Understood. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, this gentleman's been waiting.
All right, good evening. Bob Baker, 626 Lancaster Avenue. First, I want to start off by what Al just said. One, thank you for removing Claremont Plaza from the rezoning plans and taking that away. I know my family and my neighbors, thank you for that. And I did also want to follow up the language, just making sure that, because the way it's stated now, on exception, a gas station could go in that area. So how do we remove that so we're not back here fighting this again? Because there is an
Yeah.
exception for a gas station to go in there. Mr. Luddy was very, very apt to tell me at the Planning Commission and made sure that he got that point out. So I want to make sure that we're not going to be back here doing this whole fight all over again. So how do we get that language out that my neighbors and I don't have to worry about a Wawa or something going in that parking lot?
Is this new language, or you're saying the existing language already?
States
Allows-
with exception allows a convenience store, gas station, pump station going in that area. And this is something that we obviously don't want. You heard how strongly we feel about it. So we need to make sure that language is changed so that it does not allow a gas station, fueling station to go
But
in
you
that
want
area.
it even less possible than it currently is.
Well, what it currently is, I mean, like I said, Mr. Lighty was very
Yeah.
strong in letting me know that I can go in there. So there just seems, I want to make sure that there isn't some backdoor politics taking place, that this is ever going to be
Well, no.
taking place
Yeah.
again, that we are going to have to stand here and fight this all over again.
No, it's not. Our intention is to do what we say we're going to do. That's now, if there's loopholes and things like that, we would want to close them. Special exceptions there's extra loops. You have to jump
Right,
extra
and
hoops.
you got to go through.
You have to jump through. So how likely that would be, I didn't think we were in a position where we had to actually, I thought it was more a position where don't change anything and we're safe. But if you're saying no, you got to go in there and actually proactively change the language.
I mean, it says it says no, but with exceptions. So that's the thing that concerns me. I just
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, yeah, I think what you're going to get is you're going to get the language that it currently is, because there were two things. It was change that zoning plus, or change the language, correct? And we said we don't want either. We don't want the language change or the zoning change, but that's going to leave it with what that current zoning language is.
Yeah, and I just
It's
like I
not
said,
tightening that up in any way.
Yeah, and
But that's because we have other zoning in the air, throughout the municipality that has that zoning.
now I know, and I know that you have other plans in that rezoning plan that you want to push forward and move forward on, and I get that. So is it possible to revisit that language at another point in time to make sure that, like I said, we're just not here again
Yeah.
because someone is
When
pushing
is
something
the
through?
planning commission meeting?
That's the first Wednesday of March.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they have it specifically teed up for next meeting. I'm
Yeah.
assuming they would.
Okay.
But I know we have to get back with our consultant on this matter to ensure that they have the appropriate, documentation put
Yeah.
together and things for the planning commission to start reconsidering. So we don't want to rush. We don't want to rush into it without having it, pretty much ready to roll for them to reconsider. So I will
Yeah.
get back with staff on that to make sure that we have that.
Yes, sir. This is new information, so we'll just have to look into it, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Mr. Baker, I just want to make one thing.
Yeah.
I want to understand what I think you said. The issue was the commercial neighborhood versus the commercial general.
Right.
And you're telling us that the chair of the planning commission, Mr. Lighty, told
Yeah.
you that commercial neighborhood would allow,
Yeah, he said that even if they voted it down, which they did, and you guys voted it down, he was, it can still go in there. A convenience store can still go in there. So
No, I don't know that to be true.
That's what he told me at the last planning commission.
Well, I will tell you that the intention of the board is to not permit that kind of use of that property, so. And if the planning commission has something to that effect, it would come to us for approval.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Then two, Mr. McCormick, I know you took a lot of heat last meeting too, as far as everyone, as far as responses were concerned. And I know you're brand new to the board. And I want to make clear that every time I have emailed you, you have responded to me in a very fast manner, very quick manner. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that.
That's my commitment to every one of my bosses, all 55,000 of you.
So, no, thank you for that. And thank you to Mr. Navarro and Ms. Thompson for your responses as well. I do appreciate that. Mr. McCormick, I'm still working on how to get notices to residents. I have not forgotten about that as well. I do say, just as a starting point though, and it may not be the most effective, but at least it's a start. And those quarterly sewer bills, I mean, if we can get something out, not extra postage. So if any kind of important notice needs to go out at least 4 times a year, that those notices are going out, that residents can be made aware of important issues going on in the township. So while I'm still trying to think of other ways that we can do that, I think that at least is a start in getting that information out. So, and going back to Claremont for a second, I think one of the reasons that you have to go back and redo things is because that information wasn't put out in a way that made everyone aware of what was going on. There's a difference between the legal way and the moral way. And we need to make sure that we are not just doing things the legal way, but we are doing things the moral way. And so you hear a lot, I've heard a lot in the last couple of meetings and tonight, about transparency. I would hope that every decision, every action moving forward is done with the utmost degree of transparency and integrity, and finding out, how we go about letting everyone know what's going on. Because what it sounds like from residents is the fact that people just don't know what is going on. Decisions are being made and they're just not aware. I'm new to these as well, but I do plan on being a regular meeting goer so that I'm made aware and stay aware of what's going on in the township. And so, again, I'm huge on self-reflection. And so as we reflect back on these decisions, just moving forward, making sure that everything is done with transparency and integrity, and we'll all be thrilled.
Okay.
So again, thank you for hearing us, listening to us, and removing the Claremont Plaza from the rezoning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm also a little smaller, so I appreciate it. My name is Kate Scheib. I live at 131 Oak Park Road, and I'm here to address the supervisors. And I must say, this is the largest turnout that I've seen in a Lower Paxton Township meeting, the most diverse as well, and I think it's a great thing. Public opinion is always necessary. I thank you for allowing me for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'll keep my comments brief prior to asking the board to provide some additional clarification on the current status of filling the vacancy that was created upon Robin Lindsay's resignation. In my professional capacity, I served for 26 years as a fiduciary agent for clients of varying financial means. Whether $500 or $5 million, I understood that their needs were different, and I treated them all with dignity and respect. I've also dedicated my life to civic service, having served the city of Sunbury as its planning director. I chaired the Planning, Finance, and Public Works Committees as a twice-elected councilwoman for the Lewisburg Borough Council, and I've served as planning director for the Borough of Milton and their community development director. My many years of direct experience in municipal government gives me a unique perspective in the challenge that this board will face in mobilizing quickly and appointing a qualified interim supervisor to join you in conducting the business of this township. I am certain, especially after this evening, that I am not alone in expressing interest in filling this vacancy. I know there's at least 4 of us in this room this evening. Mr. Joe, whose last name I do not know, Mr. Tim Pramick, Dr. Stewart, myself. Is there anyone else? Another gentleman right here. So we have 5 of us. So I'm not speaking just for myself. I hope I speak for the others as well. As I sought additional guidance to navigate your defined process, I received a communication from the township manager, a response to my request for information, acknowledging receipt of my interest and supposing that this board may directly respond to applicants. The language used did not make any promises or warranties. So I am here this evening to ask the members of the board 2 specific questions. The first question being, have you committed to an open and impartial application interview and selection process versus a partisan appointment? Question number 2 is, will you communicate directly with applicants to schedule and conduct interviews and to notify those applicants whether they have been selected or disqualified from appointment?
Number 1, yes, it's open, it's nonpartisan. Number 2, we're in a tight timeline. It's up to each member how many they want to talk to and in what way. And then you added, will they be notified if they are not? I think we usually do that. So, yeah.
Okay, so may I just follow up a question? So then, to understand you, Supervisor Judd, each individual township supervisor is granted the liberty to contact an applicant or not for follow-up questions or not.
Correct.
And when will and how will the discussion take place in which you all kind of come together and have your mind meld in qualification discussion?
What do we do? Last
Timeline is that
It's
we're
scheduled
supposed to
for March,
receive-
it's scheduled for March 4th. We take the vote on March 4th, so during that March 4th board meeting, I would expect that we would take our vote. We could have some prior discussions, but I'm sure that there will be some comments during that March 4th meeting.
And
May I make,
App-
ask a point?
applicants-
Do you not have to appoint a Republican since you're reporting? You're taking a Republican position?
I haven't even looked into that. I don't think so.
no, the answer
I've
is
not-
no.
I've
It's
not looked at
customary. It's
Yes.
customary and traditional. No,
I don't
it's
think
not
so.
specific.
Yeah.
Our solicitor is saying, no, we don't have to appoint a Republican. What I'm looking for personally to appoint is someone to help fill the 21 and a half years of experience that walked out the door when we lost Norm Zumas and Robin Lindsay. That's what I'm looking for.
I do
Yes.
have
The
probably a
applicants-
follow-up question to this next one. Oh, excuse me.
The applicants have until the 21st to indicate their interest. Each board member has already received several applications, and we're waiting until the 21st to make certain that we receive all of them. Each of the board members in their own way will do their evaluation or their interview or their questioning of each applicant. I personally will wait until I have all of them on the 21st. After the 21st, I intend to reach out to each applicant and either interview them by phone or by in person, whichever their schedule allows, my schedule allows. and I will make my determination based on that. It will not be made on party affiliation, but I will tell you, we have a great group of highly qualified individuals who have already applied. I've been very, very impressed.
Ms. Shabby, another question.
That's good to hear, yes. When it comes to selecting a supervisor and reviewing the candidates' applications, are you going to consider this a personnel matter and therefore conduct your discussions in executive session? Or will you be conducting your session in public?
I don't know. Is this something, I mean, the vote's going to be in public, obviously, so we're going to.
Not the vote, the discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there'll be discussion with it. I don't know. Does this count? I forget. I don't know if this is, we do whatever the law says.
Yeah, so anytime more than 3 of the supervisors are in the same space under the Sunshine Act, it's an executive session. They can do it a number of ways. They can consider it somewhat of a personnel matter, but if that's the case, then it'll also be discussed on the dais at a public meeting. Otherwise, they can discuss it in non-quorum settings in groups of 2.
Thank you. I am familiar with the Sunshine Act, and I'm also familiar, just to let you know, that if you do determine it's a personnel issue that needs to be discussed in executive session, those whom you are discussing, can waive their right to private privilege and ask for it to be brought out into the sunshine to be discussed in a public quorum. And thank you for your
Okay.
time and your answers to my
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comments on an issue not on the agenda? All right. Oh, one more? Okay.
I'm going to try to be quick. It's been a long day for everybody. Again, like...
Your name and address, please.
Majid Ali, 4602 Oxford Road. I think it's Devon Minor or Manor. Don't know exact pronunciation of that.
Devon Manor.
Okay, Devon Manor. All I'm going to say is this. Thank you for opening up the application process for the public. But when you go to the website, I know, Mr. McCormick, you said that there's applications, people submitted, but there's no request for applications. There's only requests for a letter of interest. And you can confirm that by going to your website or going to the Facebook link you guys set up. So if anybody has confusions, they do have the form online, but you're going to have to go find it yourself. If you want, I can help you with it, so you can catch me and I can kind of show you where it is. So if you're going to make that a requirement for your application, please define that. Just don't say submit a letter of interest, because to me, it just says a letter of interest.
So why are you speaking, sir?
Oh, I'm speaking because a couple people prior to me came in and they're interested in being appointed. I'm one of them. And I tend to run because I believe, as the majority of the room understands, there's a complaint of communication. And if they're not getting this currently, there's going to be change. And they need people in there that they're going to be they can communicate effectively and get back to people. We need to realize that when we're elected by the people, we the people. And
And now, please, I hate to do it, but you're talking about running for office, and
I'm not running for office.
I'm sorry.
I said nothing about running for office. I talked about communication and the lack of communication.
I thought you said you were going to be a candidate.
Correct, but I'm just saying that the common complaint is communication.
Yes.
I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
The other thing was, it wasn't clear if you wanted the application via email or you want it mailed. Just for the record, I'm going to hand you my packet. I'm not going to discuss anything, and I'll let it be. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Gillaway, and I'm just going to speak for 30 seconds, maybe a minute, because I am running for the position as well. And I'm not here to lobby for myself. I just feel like I should have a little bit of time in front of you to say hello, how are you? Show you that they weren't the only handsome or pretty faces here that are running for supervisor. I'm a long time, almost 50-year resident of Lower Paxton Township, and I just feel strongly that I want to contribute to its success in the future. And I'll stop there. I understand. I'm not here to lobby. I just wanted to say, with a smile on my face, Ms. Thompson, thanks for helping me through the process. I agree with what the man just said. It is a little bit confusing. There are 3 different things that need to be done. It wasn't clear. An application, the online, a resume, online application, and a letter of interest. That's 3 different things, and it wasn't real clear, but you helped me through it, and I think I have everything in. So anyway, thanks for your consideration. Hopefully, if it's not me, we get somebody who's great, who does a heck of a job. It's customer service, really. You have 55,000 customers, and that's who we're here to serve. Thank you.
Mr. Galloway. If people fill out the application form that's on the website, it's easier for us to evaluate side by side. But I commit to you, if we get a letter of interest, we get a resume, we get an email that says they're interested, they will be considered, okay?
Anybody else for this particular public comment? All right, next is board member comments. Board members.
Yes, I do have comments. I'll start like I've started for the last 4 or 5 weeks. My question is, how many people would be happy or okay to have a landfill/compost site in their residential community? Please raise your hand nice and tall so I can get the number down. So no hands went up on February 18th. I have a 0. Do you all agree? All right, so I'll start with something that I alluded to when Ms. Scheib was speaking. So why have I decided to come forward after sitting on the board for I'm just over a year old in sitting on this board. So my strategy when I came in was to come in listening and to come in observing and to try to learn from my fellow supervisors. But after having done that for quite a number of months, I ended up speaking on some issues that happened in executive session because I did not mean for that kind of treatment of me to continue. I am now the lone woman sitting here on the legislative body of Lower Paxton Township. And I thought it's important, I have some notes that I've typed up, and I'll read from some of those. I thought it was important to speak up and make sure the truth is known and why Lower Paxton Township has lost a collective 21 and a half years of experience from its Board of Supervisors within a 50-day span. To be a female chair of this body, and to have your hired township manager speak to you in such a dismissive, disrespectful manner is something that nobody, man or woman, should tolerate. But Robin Lindsay tolerated it. She pushed through. I'm not going to say she tolerated. She pushed through for months and months and months after she was elected chair in January 2nd of 2024. That was a historical moment for both her and I. I was the first, you see. She was the first woman chair elected to that board, and it seemed to be over the course of the time that I sat with the board that things were allowed, tone was allowed, attitude was allowed, yelling was allowed, and that's not supposed to happen in your workplace at all. She took it as long as she can. So who's the problem? Well, Marissa White pretty much outlined it, but I'll go ahead and I'll state very directly for the official record that the township manager, Brad Gottshaw, is a major problem with the culture of running the township. If you watched the recording of the meeting, then you saw and heard how he responded to the residents expressing their displeasure with his demeanor. You saw his contempt for our former chair when he wouldn't even bother to stand in our last meeting when Mr. Lindsay, Mrs. Lindsay's husband, read her resignation, showed something on the screen, and the entire, well, I guess I can't say entire, when two people didn't stand, when the majority of the audience stood up and gave her a resounding applause. We didn't get that, I hear. I'm sitting down here at this end, so I can't see everything. You saw his contempt for our former chair, and that he has no sense of urgency to address the problems that the residents are dealing with. So Brad is one of the problems. His deputy Sam is another problem. But then Chris Judd and Paul Navarro are an entirely different problem because they are elected to serve the people, but instead they are making excuses for why their employees aren't effectively serving the people, then arguing with the people who have the courage to publicly demand action, accountability. Part of me wants to give the new interim appointee, Alan McCormick, a pass because he's only been working with the board for 3 or 4 meetings since January 6th. But it seems he's oriented toward the good old boy club model too. Despite him acknowledging that Robin Lindsay has been very kind to him and helped him get the job, he immediately jumped backwards and discredited Robin by defending Brad's behavior by saying, well, I didn't experience that. Of course you didn't experience that, sir. That's what we're telling you. That's what sexism is. If you're being treated different and are better than us because you, sir, are a man.
Yes, I am.
Brad was angry with Robin because she did not vote to hire him. I guess that is why he felt so free to be disrespectful, especially when the men in her party didn't support her. So we would sit in meetings and he would yell at her, but nobody spoke up. Okay? On the
All right,
Arts Council,
Ms. Thompson,
I'm going to
at some point I have to
I'm going to
defend
you said
myself.
Okay, go ahead and defend
Well-
yourself because I'm going to have a response.
Well, you can
Go ahead.
finish. You can finish.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Just putting
The
a
Arts
marker in
Council-
there.
Write a note to yourself.
Yeah.
The Arts Council Book Club has to have their monthly book club choice approved by Brad Gottshaw. The book club constitutes people who look just like you, okay? They would be known as grown folks, okay? Is there anybody in this room that can corroborate what I'm saying? Okay, thank you. The Historical Commission had their Facebook page taken down because they were posting salacious things like historical artifacts and meeting times. Robin didn't approve of that. Most times it seemed like she was the only one voting to support the ideas of the residents. Book club, Arts Council. I could go on, but I want to give Mr. Judd an opportunity to respond, so
Well,
that
I
I
don't-
can then respond.
I don't really, all I want to point out, and I've been listening to this for a few meetings now, and I want to move forward, and we got work to do. The notion that both of the last 2 supervisors left because of the manager is not true, and I don't want you to be misled. That the other, he can speak for himself, the other supervisor, but that is, he did not leave because of Mr. Gottshaw.
That's not what he told me.
And that could be. But I'm telling you, the truth. And in fact, both of the previous supervisors would tell you that a lot of the stress was brought on by having to deal with Supervisor Thompson. They would tell you that. They have told me that. It's chronicled, and it's not shocking. I mean, you could understand if you're the chairwoman of the meeting, and someone's coming up, and when she calls people racist and sexist and everything, she didn't exclude Robin. Robin was the target of that too. We were all targets, and Mr. Zumas. So they all got slammed. So it was very stressful, and that played a role, I'm sure. But that's really, I just wanted to talk about those resignations, and particularly Mr. Zumas, just to make sure we keep things in perspective and that we don't mislead you, because it's possible we can exaggerate. So that's all.
So my response, if you watch Channel 27, Robin and I were on the news. We were interviewed by, I don't remember her last name, but a reporter by the name of Ireland. I was at that interview because Robin called me and invited me to attend that interview, to be a part of that. With regards to Chris Judd and what he has said, I tried to take his advice when he said in an executive session that, Loman Henry, and I've said this before in a prior board meeting, Loman Henry was in here all the time. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm falling down on the job. Let me come in more, okay? So I started doing that. And when I was confronted about why are you coming in and who are you talking to and what are they telling you and what are you asking them, when Paul Navarro confronted me about this, I didn't really catch on what was going on, and I said very innocently, I'm just coming in to get a tour, which is exactly what I was doing. And I never shared this, we were also thinking about, at the time, the fact that we were growing out of this space, and I wanted to see how much space we had left to grow. That's what I was trying to determine. And I was also taking myself on a tour because I really hadn't been taken around on a tour.
And can I respond to this, Ms. Thompson?
Can I finish?
Yes, you can.
Yes, thank you. So I was like, well, did you confront Loman Henry about coming in? Did you ask him all these questions? What's the difference between Loman Henry and me? Why are you calling me on this? Because I'm an elected supervisor. I should be able to do what Loman did. Go ahead.
Okay, because you had said that to a previous meeting, that the previous chairman in 2023, the chairman, was in the building walking around, not in this room, but going around the building.
I only went by the comments you made in the executive session.
I understand,
that Loman was in here all the time.
Right, but what you let the people believe was your behaviors were the same. That you were in about the same amount of time, and your behaviors were the same, but you were being picked on for a special reason, even though you behaved the same way. And when you tell the people that, it's demonstrably false.
Okay,
it's
how,
not
in
even
what way?
In that he wasn't in here nearly as much as you imply he was. And nobody really wants to hear this other than to say you do behave differently, and that's people respond differently to that. It has nothing to do with how you look or how you act, but you tell people that that's the reason. And that's an awful, awful misconception to put out there, to slur us in that way.
I was attacked and questioned because I came in the building.
Yes, but I assure you, and the facts state, and this everybody knows, you were not, everyone in this building will know that it simply was not as you presented. You were not in the same amount as the former chairman, Mr. Henry. It's simply not true. And as far as watching the manager yell at the former board chairwoman and doing nothing. That is just not true.
Well, Robin will get to speak to that in an interview.
Well, that's fine. And of course, you know how it is when there's a heated disagreement. Someone says you're yelling, and other people, yeah, of course. Robin's tough, but everyone says, you know, you were yelling at me. No, I wasn't yelling at you. You all have professional disagreements in your workplaces all the time. And this is opinions. This is how people perceive it. But I did not take it as anyone being harassed. I'm a grown man. I have a daughter. I don't let women get harassed. So this is a difference in opinion about how we saw something. And there's always leeway. There's always gray area when anyone watches an incident. But repeated pattern of yelling we just elected her to be the leader of this board weeks ago. And then at the same time, we were perpetuating all this hostile behavior. It's ridiculous. And at the same board meeting that we appointed her to lead us, we appointed Mr. Gottschall to be the manager, and they were all unanimous votes. So don't be misled. I take everything you say to heart, and there's always things we can do better. But all the salacious and the nasty, dirty stuff, use your ability and understand that it is an election year. So throw all that in there and use your critical thinking, and I think you can put this in perspective. But those were facts that I needed to correct for you, and then you can decide who you believe. And now,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I have something to say, if you don't mind.
And then we got people who want to talk fireworks, so we're going to get into that.
My colleague Pamela Thompson, and Pamela, I have a great deal of respect for you, and I genuinely like you. I don't know if you remember when you interviewed me. I like you and I respect you, Pamela. I don't know if you remember when you interviewed me for this position, you said to me, people are upset with me because I'm sitting in the Loman Henry seat. Do you remember what I told you at that time?
You remind me.
I told you that it was the Pamela Thompson seat because you'd won that seat fair and square. I bear no ill will, or I wish you no ill will. You said that you want to give me a pass because I've been here a short time, but then you also said I'm part of the Good Old Boy Network. I think I know what you're accusing me of. I want to assure my fellow residents, my fellow citizens, that I don't play the Good Old Boy Network for whatever that's worth. I will tell you, and I've said this since I've been in this seat, I have 55,000 bosses, and that's all of you. I'm only here to do the best job I can representing each of you. When people write me an email, I respond. I do owe an apology for Marissa White because she sent one email to my old Gmail address I don't use very often, and I didn't know I had her email. But I did, as soon as I found the email, I did respond to her. What I did want to say is that my colleague, Mrs. Thompson, and the person who stood and read this long diatribe about the petition, there were an awful lot of words spoken. There were an awful lot of criticism stated. There was an awful lot of invective hurled saying certain kinds of things were going on. And what I want to impress upon everyone in this room and everyone sitting at this board, we can only act on specific things that we know for sure. If you say, oh, he's no good, he never responds, that's not a good criticism. If you want to make it effective, you say on January 10th, I sent an email. On January 12th, I made a phone call. And today is February, and I don't have a response to my email nor my phone call. That's something that we can deal with. But these things where they're just... And the other thing I want to say, because it's been brought up several times by several people, because it does reflect on me. I was in the meeting of February 4th, the executive session. I want to say before I start, I have a great deal of respect for Robin Lindsay. I consider her to be a friend. Her husband, I consider them both to be a friend. When my son passed away, they both showed up at my son's funeral. I went with Robin to the luncheon. She drove me there. I went to Joe played the video. I was at that meeting to support Robin because she deserved that award. And when people say that this is a, quote, good old boy network, why was Robin Lindsay the chairman for the past year and then reelected as the chair this year? Why wasn't a good old boy put in the chair? I only ask you to think about it. What I'm saying is this. In the meeting of February 4th, we were talking about a particular issue that the township had to grapple with. It was not an easy issue to decide. Our board manager, in a very competent way, laid out what he was dealing with and asked for a period of time to be able to do this work effectively so that we could solve the problem appropriately. He asked for several months' delay in getting this accomplished because we didn't have certain things in place that needed to be in place. Mrs. Lindsay took exception to that and indicated in an ever-increasing, rising voice that Mr. Gutschall was trying to undermine her. I don't think he was. The issues he brought up, in my mind, were completely legitimate and were issues the board needed to deal with. She then raised her voice first. She wasn't yelling. One member of the board tried to interject, recognizing that there was heated amounts of conversation beginning, tried to interject to calm things down. Mrs. Lindsay held up her hand and said, "I am speaking," indicating that the other member who was in that room should not speak. When Mrs. Lindsay was done speaking, Mr. Gutschall, he did raise his voice. He sharply said, "Mrs. Lindsay, you haven't supported me since you voted against my hiring." At that point in time, Mrs. Lindsay put on her coat, said, "I'm out of here," and she walked briskly out the door without any more conversation. I was in that room. Mrs. Lindsay did not yell. Mr. Gutschall did not yell. They both spoke sharply to one another on a matter of debate. Now, what happened last year and the last 12 years, the last 27 years, I don't know anything about. I can only do the best I can do based on the firsthand information that I have. So I want to tell anybody that wants to sign that petition, if you have specific information about failures, please get them to me. We will investigate and we will take care of it. As far as my colleague, I still respect you, Pamela, but I reject the fact that you're assigning me to this good old boy network that I'm not even sure I know what it is. I want to assure everyone sitting in this room, look, when you folks are here, we get better government. I want you to be here. I need you to be here. I want you to call me on the phone. I want you to send me an email. I'll do the best I can to get an answer for you. I mean it when I say this. I have no ulterior motives. I have no hidden agenda. I moved here in 1985. My children grew up in an absolutely wonderful place to live. All I want to do is help maintain that. That's all. I'm going to do the best job I can to help maintain the quality of life that is in Lower Paxton Township. That's all I can do. But please don't give me jello when you're making an accusation. Don't say, there's been many times when this person yelled at these people. I need to know dates and times so that an investigation can be done. We can go to the people that, quote, were yelled at, and we can determine if that's accurate or not. Mr. Judd described the February 4th meeting as being disagreement in the workplace. I think that's what it was. And I assure you, if I was sitting in the room and somebody acted aggressively, or they acted inappropriately, or they raised their voice and started yelling and screaming, and I would have stepped in and done something about it. I'm just telling you that there was no yelling. And I don't want to paint it as Robin telling an untruth. I'm sure she felt like she was being yelled at, okay? That's just not what I observed. So, Mrs. Thompson, I'd appreciate if you would withdraw your accusation of my being part of the good old boy network. That's all. Thank you.
So we were talking about fireworks in that session.
Ms. Thompson, excuse me for a second, please. I don't want to interrupt. But I've known Miss Lindsay for a long time. Miss Lindsay just texted me, and she wanted me to tell you, he yelled at me before that incident and told me I was a conspiracy against him. So I'm sharing that information.
Okay, and we were just sharing what we witnessed and everything. Okay, can we?
I have one thing. I mean, we all now have to defend ourselves. So I've been here for 4.5 years. Okay. Obviously nobody here remembers me because I haven't run for a while, but you know, I feel like I have to defend myself now, and that's unfortunate. Okay. Because this is, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a very thankless job. We get a mere $5,000 a year. We don't have a place to stay here when we come to the building. There's not an office for us. We don't have a phone. I've had complete hate mail and emails and stuff sent to me recently. Why don't you? And it's like, I have a full-time job. Okay. I have a very young family. I had 2 children that were born while I was here. Okay. So very young. My grandfather passed away. My father's in the back of the room there. My grandfather passed away when I was sitting in a board meeting right here. I miss my wife's birthdays. I miss my anniversaries. I do all of that for the people in this room. Okay. So to hear the hate and vitriol that's spit at us, it really hurts. Okay. I'm the first, you won't hear this, right? Because nobody will say this, and I tend to be, the quiet people aren't going to. So I'm the first Hispanic American to be on this board, okay? And that means something to me. It means something to my children. It means something to my family. But I'll be honest with you, in recent, and I did that. I joined this board 4.5 years ago because I'm a nurse practitioner. So ironically, I'm also a big supporter of first responders. I was an EMT here in the township, okay? I was at South Central when I was in high school. I was a Paxtonia firefighter, and I did medevac, and I'm a nurse practitioner. So I sat here and I listened to, I hate first responders. I don't. Interesting, But I did all of that, and I sat here through this, and I'll let you guys make the determination. But first off, I would never allow. I wasn't here on the 4th, but even that being said, I would never sit here and allow, somebody to yell at another person, not even a man and a woman and a man. I wouldn't sit by and have that happen. I was raised by very strong women. Okay. But this is getting very difficult. This is a very difficult position to be in right now. Because honestly, I just don't have time for it. I don't have time for the back and forth. I don't have time to come in here and have to worry about, is somebody trying to take me out for no reason? I have no aspirations to run for anything else, to run for any other office. Okay. So, why do this? I'm actually starting to not know that I want to do it. And if I'm being honest with you, I was going to put my resignation in before everybody else. And Norm beat me to it, and Robin beat me to it. So I'm still thinking about this, but but I'm just being honest. And the board hasn't heard this. I haven't told them this, but I don't know. I have to make a decision. With my wife, with my family. But again, the hate and vitriol that has been spit at us is disgusting. And I will say this, and I'll just put a warning out there. If we continue to do that, right, and allow that to happen to our elected officials, I mean, you guys elected us. You put us here. I respond to people. Bob, respond to you. Respond to people. I respond to several people in this room who decided not to respond back to me. We've had conversations. I lived in Linglestown for a very short period of time in my life. My stepmother's family is from Linglestown, very revered family from there. And, once I talk to people, oh, wow, I had no idea. I had no clue. But it's hard to do that job. You're going to have a hard time finding somebody to do this position if we continue to come at people the way that we've been allowing this to happen. So I'm not here to argue with anybody. I'm here to warn you, please. You can be upset, but you also have to understand that that there are processes. There have been investigations. There have been other things that have happened. And, you know, but coming and just spitting at us, you know, lies or your thoughts or your, I'll go back to the hate and vitriol, you know, is not going to accomplish anything. In fact, it makes me not want to do it anymore. Why would I do that? Why would I put myself out there for nothing, for people that come at me and my 15-year-old has to hear lies about me? So thank you for what it's worth. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for helping me maybe make my decision.
All right, Mr. Navarro. Manager's report.
Sure, I have no official report this evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Old business. Action to select a venue for the 2025 fireworks display.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if I may, I'm sorry. That was
Yeah.
out of line. I'm
You
sorry.
okay?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
just have a comment to make under that.
Okay. We do not plan a presentation on this. The public safety director gave a public presentation on this last meeting. So for tonight, it's just public comment and then whether or not the board wants to take it up and vote for it. I think anybody who's been following it knows what the issue is. We had incidents the last few years in Linglestown with the fireworks, so our public safety people looked at a way to do it and reduce the number of incidents, and what are ways that we could do it to not have problems. And so they looked into it, and they came up with moving it to George Park, and they had reasons why they thought that was a good idea. Were presented last week, and we decided we would table it for a week and bring it back, and we'll decide it tonight. So I'm sure for people who are well-versed on or have opinions on it, you can feel free to make a comment now, or we'll just move right to the board action.
Can I, before we
Yeah.
go into that, and I know this is out of order, but, you know, I'm the one who asked for this to stay. Well, Pamela and I both asked for it to have some more time. I appreciate Director Kashiba for taking the time to really sit down and explain things to me and have a further discussion and conversation. Always a great discussion. Very wise guy, wise man. I mean, very lucky to have him here at the township. One of the reasons I've stayed so long is because he's amazing. So yeah, I'll clap to that. So thank you very much, and everybody else that has been here. So thank you for giving us a little bit more time to clarify and to get some better
Yeah.
understanding.
And as I said, we're not, I don't think we were inclined to do the relocation, but here it is tonight, and we need to make a decision. Are there any public comments on this agenda item?
Good evening, Bob Thomas, 6600 Parkway East. Tonight I come in my official capacity as president of the Linglestown Area Civic Association. So I'd like to, some of our members are here, so I'd just like to read a statement from our association. We, the members of the Linglestown Area Civic Association, wish to express our strong opposition to the proposed change in location for the July 4th Linglestown fireworks. One of our association's key missions is to preserve the small town atmosphere, history, and traditions of Linglestown. The Linglestown fireworks have been a cherished community event for over 70 years, sponsored by our local Linglestown Volunteer Fire Department as a community give back. Moving the fireworks outside of Linglestown would effectively end the Linglestown fireworks, a community tradition. This proposed change contradicts our association's goal of preserving community traditions and would be a disappointing loss for our residents. We believe that Coons Park offers many advantages over George Park, so in the interest of time, I'll avoid some of what I had prepared. We don't see the difference in parking advantages. There's certainly better road access at Coons Park. And I think one of the things to consider is most of the people watching the fireworks are not parking in the park. Okay, it's the adjacent parking, which is businesses, churches, schools. That's where the people are parking, not in the park. if we focus strictly on the park resources, we're totally missing the thousands of people who are watching these fireworks from their backyards. You know, this has become a part of our community fabric, the 4th of July fireworks in Linglestown. So there are cookouts all around the neighborhoods around the park. The viewing area is not the park. The viewing area is some space outside the park, which is neighborhoods. So to move the location takes away a tradition in our community. You know, we acknowledge the safety concerns. Yeah, I mean, this is an event, you know, it's a large-scale event, so we acknowledge that. You know, but it's our hope that our township can develop a plan to keep this event safe as possible at Coons Park. We've seen them do it before. We know it can be done. I mean, last year was an example. It got done. So we hope that we can find a way to keep this at Coons Park. You know, we've heard a lot of the bad actors are not our neighbors. So we kind of feel like we're being penalized for the illegal activity of outsiders. So we would just urge the township to find a solution that keeps the fireworks in Linglestown and preserves this long-standing tradition. Thank you for our perspective. Thank
Anybody else to speak on this item?
Thank you. I'm Becky Liddick. I'm 1217 Griffin Street. So ever since the topic of the moving the fireworks from Coons Park has come up, I've heard a lot of people say that maybe it's time for change, maybe it's time to go somewhere else. But I want to ask at what loss that is. You know, I just feel like if we keep chipping away at our traditions, what will be left for our kids and our grandkids from the generations that came before them? And I promise you this is going to be so cheesy. But this really just means so much to us. I remember as a kid coming to Linglestown, moved here when I was like 8 years old, going to the Linglestown Fire Carnival. I thought it was the coolest thing. I loved the booth where you could win cakes because that was like so cool. And I loved everything about it, the lights and activities. And what I came to realize that I couldn't identify it then was that I loved this sense of community. We had moved around a lot when I was little, and that was the first time that we had settled somewhere and I actually felt that sense of community. And I was really sad when it ended, and I was disappointed for my kids that they wouldn't get to see that, but what they did have was the Linglestown fireworks. You know, other communities have them, but it's not the same. This is the Linglestown fireworks. And then my husband and I bought a house in Linglestown and started a family of our own. And one of the best early memories of my being a mom was sitting on our deck with my son. He was like 1, and he just laid back like this, just chilled out. And that thought was like, this is what it's all about. This is what we achieve. This is what we want. This is community. This is everything we've wanted. And, you know, within the next couple of years, we added a little girl. We would have family and friends over. It was a community. It wasn't just the fireworks. And, you know, most of our surrounding areas, towns, they have annual events. Carnivals in Hummelstown and Marysville. When you go there, you see people. They've been doing it all their lives. They see friends they know. They see their kids going through it. They see everything that they went through, they're seeing it through their kids' eyes and their grandkids' eyes. George Park has the National Night Out and the Fall Festival. And I loved all tradition. I love new tradition, old tradition. But it makes me sad to think about losing the old ones. And when I hear people say that it's time to have it somewhere else, I just can't help but think that they would also fight to see something being lost that was a part of their childhood and a part of their children's childhood and a part of their grandchildren's childhood. And it's not just a fireworks display, it's heritage. It's a gift that started in 1955 from the Linglestown Fire Company to its residents and its small businesses to thank them for their support. And I'm speaking of the businesses, our businesses will lose out on this if you take away the Linglestown fireworks from Linglestown. And again, I know it's cheesy, so I'm very sorry, but I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. I've had so many people reach out and share this, you know, they're going through the same thing. So before I end, I do want to thank all the first responders, the Lingelstown, Lower Paxton Fire Department, or Lower Paxton Township cops, all the fire departments for what you do for us every day. I mean that sincerely. But if you're inclined to keep it in Lingelstown, I hope to someday be able to see my grandkids enjoying. If my kids do this for me, give me kids, grandkids. I hope that someday to see my grandkids enjoying this, you know, and I don't downplay the safety. I believe there are things that can be done, you know, and I respect Director Kamichi very much for what you did, and I took all that into account, but I still think it should stay in Lingelstown. Thank you.
Your comments are not cheesy at all. As a matter of fact, they're beautiful, and I thank you for sharing them.
Anybody else on this topic?
Hi, my name is Edna Hutchins. I'm a resident of Lingelstown since 1987. I've also served on the comp plan years ago, almost 20 years ago, gave my time for 3 years, and I know what you're experiencing up there is a tough job to please everybody. I didn't realize that we were planning on moving it until I saw the commercial on TV, the news. But I want to, I've been attending the fireworks since 2000. I decided going down to Harrisburg was not a safe idea, so I started coming to the Lingelstown fireworks. And it was refreshing because it was small, it was hometown, it was safe. And that was the key thing, it was safe. And I've been going every year except for maybe once or twice where I've had an illness and I couldn't attend. But I did notice this past year that we hired the state police to come. They were there and troopers on horsebacks. And I also noticed that we started bringing in trucks, food trucks. And now we're playing music. And in defense of the police, who are trying very hard to keep us safe, we've just made their job even harder by bringing in food trucks and bringing in loud music. Because anytime they're using all their senses to be aware of what is happening and surrounding the whole area that they are expected to cover, they can't hear everything if everybody is playing loud music. It just makes their job a lot more difficult. I also believe that the fireworks that is put on by our fire department, they need to be able to have access to so many different ways that if they're called upon to go rescue somebody, they have a better chance of getting there through Coons Park than they do over at George's Park. So I'm not sure why we bring food trucks, because that just encourages more people to come out and hang out earlier. The music, you know, it's funny, since I've been attending since 2000, I never felt we needed to have music. And what it does is it just makes the job harder for our police and also for anybody else that happens to be there, because people come earlier, people congregate. The younger generation, which seems to be giving the difficulty to the policemen, hang out together. So they come because they love the music. You know, just come for the fireworks. We don't need food trucks to make life more difficult for everyone who's trying to make it safe. We don't need loud music to make the job of the policemen more difficult, because they can't hear what's being happening on the other side of the field if there's loud music playing. They're relying totally on their senses to keep everybody safe. And I want to thank the police for being there and keeping us safe. I talked to the state troopers who were on their mounted police, on their horses, and I could see it was a difficult task for them. So maybe we've created part of their problem, okay, by making it more unsafe, and instead of making just a small town experience that everybody seemed to be enjoying until the music started playing, until the food trucks came, and more people came early, which makes their job even more difficult. And I believe it's important to have the Lingelstown Fire Company continue the tradition. They do a dynamic show, and they love the community, and they have good reason to be concerned. George Park makes us a sitting duck. One way in, one way out. okay? Whether it's for the policemen or the surrounding communities. That's not safe. Why do you want to put the policemen in a more difficult position, and also our firemen who are trying to protect us? Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else like to speak on this issue?
My name is Kelly Fegley. I'm a Marion View Drive here in Lower Paxton Township. I realize that it is a very difficult job. It is a thankless job. I'm a teacher. I get it. That you're never going to please everybody. And I understand why you wanted to see more community input, and thank for the tireless efforts that the police and the fire departments to help us hold this. And I know no matter what anybody chooses, that they're going to do the best job they can in that location. You wanted to get more community involvement. So it was posted on several Facebook groups, lots of comments, and analyzing numbers, comments. All of them are over 80%. Here was one Facebook survey, Coons versus George Park. People could just click on a choice. There were almost 500 people who voted. It was 82.3% to stay at Coons, 17.7% to be moved to George Park. So that is a community survey. Approximately the day or two after I started a petition, there were 476 signatures signed in 6 days online to keep it at Coons Park. So just to address a couple of the things that were brought up in safety, parking seemed to be one of the safety issues that we discussed. So opened up Google Maps, again, numbers. There are 950 spaces in the community to serve those who are coming into the area. And the nice thing about that is it's not in one parking space in the middle of the park where everybody is, or down the road, all exiting onto Nye Road. So we have 950 locations, spaces, starting all the way down at Blue Mountain Parkway, where you have the church, you have the fire company, you have a public parking spot. Tony's is right there. They exit out at one end of town. You have Linglestown Life, who has over 200 parking spots. They exit out into the middle of town. You have down the road, the 3 schools, the church parking lot again, enters it into the far end of town. All of the roads surrounding Coons all exit in different directions. The amount of time to get in and out would be much better suited at Coons. The other thing about the two that I wanted to discuss was the surface area. It was brought up that there was more surface area, more viewing area at the 22 acres versus 10 acres in Coons Park. But what we neglected to share was what is the acreage of the entire town, because that's who watches it. That's the viewing area, not the field where we sit right in front of the fireworks. I probably have 30 people in my Harding Avenue yard when I was there, sit, prop up chairs. We cooked out. The kids jumped on the trampoline. You have 30 people right in that one yard. So the viewing area is not the 10 acres and the 22 acres. It is the entire town. That is the viewing area. That is your surface area, not just confined to the space. But more importantly than the aspects of both, I don't think George Park offers you enough change to uproot everything that's there. Number one, it's not just a tradition. It's a continuous bonding for the community. It is a continuous building of the community. That's when everybody's out on the streets. That's when you meet your neighbors that you don't see because everybody's in on their phones. That's when you bond. The kids play. The kids, get this, the kids play. They're not on their tablets. They're outside running around. So it is the building of the community, not just a past tradition. It's the current building of our future community that is important. The second thing would be the travesty of going behind the fire department's back and taking it from them. And pretty much that's what it would be, because they did have a written agreement to have this event at the park for these dates. So it would be going against a written contract that Lower Paxton signed with them for the money, or it would be a competition between two events in the same Lower Paxton Township. So we do recognize there is safety issues with teenagers. I don't know if any of you've been in the high school. There's safety issues every day in the high school. Fights all of the time. This is not confined to the park because of its location. That's an ongoing thing. And when you have unsupervised students, it makes it worse. But I believe, they're coming up with a great plan for how to deal with the students. Either park, it's the students. So in conclusion, I just want you to think there's more than the perimeter that they may or may not run out. There's more than the parking spaces inside. There's more than these little aspects of safety. It goes pretty deep within the community. And I'll leave these up here for you. This is just 6 days of people reaching out, comments. And again, there's both sides. People would love to see it closer to their house. But overall, it's been a resounding 80-some% to 17, 15%.
Okay, thank you for those. Okay. Anybody else on this topic? Okay, no. All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yeah.
just share
Yeah.
something with the
Yes.
board and community? I think I just want to share an email exchange that I had over the weekend with a resident, because I think it's a rather kind of a salient summation, if you will, to kind of some of the public misconception or the idea or notion that some decision was made either by the township, or I've been named quite frequently as being a unilateral decision maker, which I'm actually starting to find I have a lot more power than I actually do, so I might get used to this. But anyway, I think a salient email exchange here that I had with one resident kind of sums it up quite well. If I may just read it real quickly. Mr. Gottschall, I am sure you will, and I'll just read it in part just to get to the point that she was making here. Mr. Gottschall, I am sure you will receive a mountain of mail on this subject, so I will keep my letter short. It is unclear why you decide to move the fireworks without telling the Board of Supervisors first. My experience is as a journalist, as a community relations manager, and as a caseworker for 50 years. The board should be told first before sharing the information with the public or news media. From my perspective, changes like this should be decided by the board and not unilaterally by you. It goes on from there, but that's the extent of the conversation of that particular topic. My response to her was, and if, again, please just bear with me here, but good evening. I appreciate you reaching out to me directly with your concerns on this matter. You were actually the only one to do so I appreciate that. Please do not take this email to have any appearance of defensiveness, but since you have been the only one to contact me, I wish to take the opportunity to provide some background on the issue of fireworks, specifically as there has been widespread misinformation provided publicly by third parties. First, it is atypical for the board, or frankly any governing body for that matter, to get involved in deciding details of events or routine operational matters. However, in this instance, specifically of fireworks this year, the board requested more involvement given the unrest that occurred during this event both in 2023 and 2024, wherein several arrests were made each. Our staff, including the public safety director and the Deputy Chief of Fire provided the board with its first presentation on the matter being potential security plans, in September of 2024. During that meeting, which was an executive session due to the discussion surrounding specific safety planning, the board provided assurance that it wished to continue to hold the event. Our public safety staff was directed at that time by the board and myself to continue planning and discussing options. Lower Paxton Township Public Safety and Parks and Recreation staff began meeting in earnest to begin planning the actual event beyond just the policing planning on November 12th, 2024. It is also important to note that Sean Harp, the Linglestown Fire Company chief, was invited and attended. It is also important to note that the township staff began discussing the concept of relocating the event from Coons with Linglestown Fire Company present at this meeting in November of 2024. 3 planning sessions were held subsequent to this November 12th meeting. Linglestown Fire Company was invited to each one of those meetings and attended all but one. Relocation of the event was discussed at each one of these meetings, during which the fire company was present and took part in the planning. In a written briefing to the board of Supervisors on November 29th, 2024, I indicated, Brad, Township Manager, indicated that staff, the Public Safety, and the Parks and Recreation Departments continue to plan for the 2025 fireworks, and that the discussion includes relocation to George Park. Again, that was in November 29th, 2024. During the same written briefing, I mentioned to the board that, quote, "We have been made aware that the Linglestown Fire Company is opposed to the move and would not contribute their typical donation of $5,000. Staff continues to brainstorm all aspects of the event and will soon make a formal recommendation to me, Brad, Township Manager. Once I, Brad, Township Manager, am aware of the recommendation, I will notify the Board of Supervisors for final review." In a written briefing to the Board of Supervisors on January 24th.
Are we getting close here?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's very appropriate that I read this document because it includes a very salient summation of the process that has been widely misrepresented, particularly to the detriment of my official capacity.
All right.
In a written briefing to the Board of Supervisors on January 24th, 2025, I updated the group that I anticipated having a staff recommendation on January 28th. In a written briefing again to the Board of Supervisors on January 31st, 2025, I indicated that staff had provided me with their formal recommendation, which included moving the event from Coons to George Park. In this written brief, I indicated to the board, quote, "I would ask that the board place this topic on an upcoming agenda for discussion and action." The topic was placed on the February 11th board workshop agenda as presentation of staff request to hold 2025 fireworks at George Park. It is now slated for final board decision and action during their February 18th business meeting. The notion that I made any decision, which again, up until this particular moment in time, still hasn't been made, unilaterally or without the board being notified, is grossly inaccurate. I agree with you, the resident, that it would be inappropriate for me to have done so. Not one time did I even direct any staff, and again, I would ask the staff members to confirm or deny, to contemplate or plan as an option the movement of the event to George Park. It was entirely staff-driven because based on the public safety considerations until I, Brad, got the board involved, as indicated throughout the comment. During that process, I kept the Board of Supervisors informed of the planning considerations and options dating back to November in written form. And I go on to continue the rest of the email. But I think, again, that provides a pretty good summation of the process here, in which entirely the board, since November of last year, was kept informed both in verbal form and in written form of the planning process of this, up to and including the fact that staff, not Brad, was considering a plan that could potentially move the fireworks. And again, the fact that the Linglestown Fire Company had been involved in that planning process and was aware of that consideration the entire time. So thank you, sir. Thank you for indulging me.
All right. So it's time to act then. Take action on this. Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry. My name's Dan Rickable. I'm an electrician. I was on an emergency call, and I wanted to really be here really bad. So if I could just have like just 2 quick minutes.
Sure thing.
Okay. My name's Dan Rickable. I have a business here in Linglestown, and I live at 1550 Parkway West. I just wanted to say that I know and I greatly appreciate every single one of you guys sitting up there on the board. When you have to deal with 55,000 residents and all having different opinions and views, it's got to be a tough thing to do, especially on this being a part-time job. It's got to be on top of your full-time job and having families. It's hard. But going to the fireworks is what I wanted to say. It is a tradition. And for as long as that's been going on, it's growing in size. It's growing in popularity. And everyone says that, yes, you have to change with the times. Well, yes, you do. As the crowds grow, so should law enforcement presence at the fireworks. I mean, it's ridiculous to me as a resident to sit here and say, we always used to send, and I don't know the numbers, I'm just hypothetically speaking, only sent 20 police officers to the fireworks at Coons Park every year. Well, if the crowds are growing and growing numerous crowd sizes year after year after year, well, don't you think that the police presence should also be growing to accommodate the crowd size? To me, it just is a common sense thing. I'd hate to see it move. I remember I lived in Lower Paxton my entire life. I'm 52 years old. I remember when I used to have fireworks shooting over the top of the roof at Hill's department store. And that was always a great tradition. I live across the street currently there's a church across the street from where I live. And that church, every year for the Coons Park fireworks, will have the whole parish come out into their back part of the church. And they all set up chairs out there and they all watch them from the safety and just not so much the safety, but just the comfort of the parish. And by trying to move it, now you're taking not just that away, but you're taking so many things away when all the simple thing is just accommodating the safety that has just been happening over the last 2 years. 2 years out of 40, 50 years that the fireworks have been going on there. I just think that as a township, we could do better as far as the safety concern and just keep things the way they are and just improve our safety. That's all. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Board. Sean Harp, Fire Chief, Linglestown Fire Company, 6205 Jerome Boulevard in Linglestown. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I'm looking forward to getting to the vote here. But I just need to respectfully disagree with you, Mr. Manager, regarding that we were invited from day one. All right. Just to clear that up for the public, we received word because our fire police attended a Parks and Rec meeting that had to do with the Fall Fest and parking and getting all that going. During that meeting, there was then discussion about possibly moving the fireworks. I was notified by my fire police that there was talk about that. We looked into it a little bit. We reached out to some staff, and we were assured that it was not going to be moved, but they may be looking into options for safety, which is totally within the realm of what they're supposed to do. The contract was signed in October. If you're saying this first meeting was in November, that just doesn't line up for us. So I just want to clear that up, that this is kind of the issue that we're dealing with this whole process. We just want to make sure that it's going in the way that it needs to, and that we are able to continue doing the event that we started in the way that to give back to our community, right? We have donors that specifically donate just to the fireworks for their appreciation of the event that we hold there, giving back to our community because you guys support us all year long. The public out, the people coming out here in the public, and just those things you had on Facebook were mind-blowing. 400 and some signatures on there. That's amazing. So thank everybody for doing that. We appreciate the support. We look forward to continuing doing this event at Coons Park. I just had to clear that up right there because, again, I don't feel, and the fire company doesn't feel, that we were involved in this, even though it is our event as the hosting company. We are more than willing to work with the township on this moving forward, and we hope this is another successful event. So that's all I wanted to say. I want to get to the vote.
Okay. Any other public comment on this? Okay. Time to act now. I wasn't sure exactly how we were going to do this. Action to select a venue for the fireworks display. So,
Mr. Chairman, to preserve the tradition and to maintain the future of the fireworks in Linglestown, I make a motion, we keep the fireworks at Coons Park.
I'll second. Nope.
okay. Action has been moved and seconded to keep the fireworks at Coons Park. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. Now, you're welcome to talk about municipal fees, or you may go back to your lives. It's up to you. Let's have one more action item.
I didn't know there was a. Oh, jeez. I didn't know there was a mic there.
All right, board, we'll continue to move on here. This is action to adopt Resolution 2025-02, amending the municipal services fee schedule. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Pretty innocuous change here in relation to the solid waste fees from Penn Waste on an annual basis. They are adjusted for an increase in the incinerator cost, and that increase was 21 cents per customer unit per month, and the fee schedule has been updated to include that change effective 1/1/25 through the point of 12/31/25 as well. And there will be a contract adjustment and potentially a fuel adjuster, which will be very minimal, to go into effect July 1st.
And this is built into the contract?
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No?
So, no, I do have a
ahead.
question. So there's about 5 pages in the fee schedule that was included in our packet. So out of all of those fees, how many of them are we raising?
I'm sorry. This just changes the residential solid waste and recycling fees, those 2 fees.
Just the 2 fees?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any public comment on this action item? Okay. Yes, no, this is contractually our contract with the trash hauler. I guess is it their, when the price of gas or something, they have.
Well, it's the incinerator charge. So
Incinerator charge, I'm
prior,
sorry.
when it was Waste Management performing the service previously, they annually increased at the beginning of the year based on what the incinerator increases their charge for. The LOCSWAMA, which is their acronym, is pretty much annually set to increase their rate by CPI, which again, for our residents, that means a 21 cent per month increase in the bill.
So 21 cents, which is the incinerator who takes our trash, when they hike their fees, we have to hike ours as well. 21 cents
That's
a month,
correct.
is that how much it is?
That's correct.
Yeah. That's where the trash goes. Okay. Did we move this? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the raising of the incinerator charge.
Within 2502.
Second. I'll make a second.
A second? Okay, Ms. Navarro, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion passes. Subdivision and land development. Do we have nothing?
Correct.
Okay. Payment of bills, Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority. Is there a motion to pay the bills?
After having reviewed the check registers with the finance manager, Sam Miller, I make a motion to pay the bills from the Township and Sewer Register, the Sewer Authority Check Register, and the Township Check Register.
Is there a second? Second, Mr. McCormick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Okay, motion passes. Announcements?
Mr. Chairman. My name is Robin Lindsay. I live at 6244 Overview Lane. I'm the former supervisor here that resigned, the former chair. 16 years I put into this township. And I'm watching you from home tonight, and I'm here to tell the truth what happened on February the 4th. So we came back, Mr. DeSanto was here speaking. I asked a question. We came back, Mr. Gutschall made a comment to me, and I said to him, if we were told, I found out on the street that they were going to be moved. A resident called and said, hey, I just found out that they're looking to move the fireworks to George Park. I called him, okay? When we got back there, he made a comment to me, and I told him that if we would have been told. He turned around and he said to me, do I have to tell you everything? Do I have to tell you when I'm having a meeting? You do. We are the board. Stop your smirking up there. You said that on February 4th.
Let's
Mrs. Lindsay,
please- let's please-
because I'm
no,
not
no.
going to allow this blatant lie
No.
and misinterpretation
All right,
of the truth.
Hold on,
Hey,
Mr.
wait a minute.
Gotcha.
Sir,
Wait a minute.
with all due respect.
Hold on. We do have a public comment policy. So let's.
Okay, all right.
Can
So
we stick to the policy?
He turned around and he said to me, do I have to tell you everything when I have a meeting? And I said yes, because when it involved the residents and it involves the Board of Supervisors, the chair needed to know instead of finding stuff out on the street. He then said to me, you have a conspiracy against me. Now, I will tell you public here, many a time I was in his office with him. We always end up in an argument. And what do I hear from him and Mr. Judd? You don't run the board like Loman Henry does. No, I don't, because I'm Robin Lindsay and I'm very transparent. I have been very transparent with this board for 1 year, 1 month, and 1 week. He then says to me, we get into an argument. Mr. Zumas was sitting there in his office. He then says to me, you didn't vote for me. Of course I didn't vote for him. I vote the way I want to vote.
Ms. Lindsay, this is difficult because you're
No, it's
talking
not.
about private discussions that
Hey.
none of us are privy to.
Well, you were privy to the one on February 4th, and not one of you said anything.
Right, but I
Not
mean,
one of you
we
said
are-
anything.
I wasn't here.
So then ones that you are privy to. Okay, so Kenwood, I get called from a resident. I go out to Kenwood. I spend 3 hours there walking the streets with the residents. I get chastised because I'm out there. Shiny Shell with the noise. I go out there to meet with the resident to listen to the noise. I get chastised for going out there. And the latest one was Representative Fleming's office included me in an email with Brad to meet their new chief of staff. I responded. He says to me, I don't know why you were included on that email. And I know, Mr. Gutschall, that Representative Fleming's office told me that you emailed them back and told me to take me off of the list, off of the email list.
All right.
Wait, no, I'm not finished.
I know, but you're
No.
bringing up private conversations that none of us.
Because you know what? You're not ruining my reputation.
I
And
do
Mr.
not
McCormick,
seek to
you
ruin.
You knew what happened on February 4th. You knew in the beginning what happened on February 4th.
No, what are you talking about?
When we left here and we went back and he yelled at me about, I made the comment and I said to him, he said, do you think I need to call you every time I have a meeting? And I said yes.
Robin.
And then he used the word conspiracy.
Robin, I wish I could confirm that. I don't remember that. I'm sorry.
Whatever. Well, I just want the public to know that I've given 16 years. I have been very transparent here. I have been telling the truth. I have worked with the residents, even though Mr. Navarro says I'm on a witch hunt, okay? I am not on a witch hunt. I am here for the residents, the employees, and the first responders. And I know, Mr. Gutschall, because a resident called me that the week before Christmas, you went in, got the call logs, and also got the text messages to see what directors, managers were talking to the board members.
Wait.
All right, hold on. We're getting into private
but there's actually
discussions
now an
again.
allegation that I've accessed what? What are you saying exactly, Mrs. Lindsay?
That you looked you looked on the call log to see
Of whom?
Of the directors and the managers for the township.
Okay, what on their individual call logs you're saying or something?
I was
I want to
told
get
you
this
went
very
into-
clear.
Hold on,
One
went into-
second,
you
one
went into
second.
the
I
call
need to get
logs.
an opinion from the solicitor. We are having a public conversation now that is not furthering us in any way. It's
No, it's not.
private
I'm telling the
accusa-
truth because you're not ruining my reputation.
No, I don't seek to do that, and I will not do anything to do that. I promise you. I want to ask the solicitor. We are now getting into accusations that none of us can confirm or deny.
Oh, I'm talking to Mr. Gutschall. I wasn't talking
I know.
to you.
I understand, but this is a public meeting.
Well, guess what?
This is for everybody.
Then I can speak up.
I
I'm
kn-
a resident.
I understand that, but this is, are we, Miss Solicitor, are we getting into an area that's either legally questionable, ethically questionable? I definitely want Ms. Lindsay to speak about her, what she sees as shortcomings and this and that. We're not getting into behind the scenes accusations, and then he has to respond. And this is not what these meetings are for.
Excuse me, I think it could be under public comment. Unfortunately, I was home watching the meeting.
I understand.
While you were demeaning me in public.
I was not demeaning you. I do not seek to demean you. I corrected a few things about my observation, what I honestly observed and thought. Completely 100% honest. We interpreted things two different ways. So are there limits to this, or not to put you on the spot?
That's okay. I'm not clear. Limits to what precisely?
To the topic of this conversation, there are accusations going back and forth about, emails and call logs and,
So your public comment rules and regs allow public comment on township business, and they defer essentially the interpretation of what constitutes township business to the chairperson. So, sorry to throw it back at you. That's just what they say.
All right. Okay. I guess I'll just ask you, Ms. Lindsay, can you say everything you want to say that you think the public needs to know, short of one-on-one accusations, the truth of which none of us are going to know? It's just going to be two of you saying things that we can't judge. So is there a way for you to make your point?
Well, one of the points, the constant memos going out that we're not allowed to talk to staff. Okay? Not allowed to talk to staff. I am going to tell you that when we got a new employee in 2023, Brad asked if we could go out to eat. He was from Nebraska, didn't know anybody. The young man asked Brad if we could go out to eat together. They have they don't know anybody. So we went out to eat 2 hours. They told us about themselves. We told them about them. Guess what? He told the employee, you go out there again, you get fired. You get fired. So I just want to let the public know, get this straight, that they are not telling the truth what happened on February the 4th.
No, that was a misinterpretation, different interpretations.
Of course, another misinterpretation,
Robin,
not yelling,
I'm
not
sorry.
yelling.
We just
I think
disagree,
very
Robin,
highly-
that's all. We just disagree.
Not when he
I'm going to
says,
speak. In many ways,
Go ahead.
you were the most effective and dedicated supervisors. I was shocked and disappointed when you resigned, but I did not, I swear to you, your voice was raised in a sharp manner. Mr. Gottschall's
yeah,
voice
that
was
was
raised in a sharp
after
manner.
he said I was conspiracing against
I
him.
didn't hear, I can't confirm or deny that part. I don't remember. What I do remember was just before you stormed out, and there was no yelling, because I would have stopped it. I think very, very highly of you. I consider you a
Thompson,
friend. I'm
Ms. Thompson,
sorry that
were they
we're
both
here.
there that night when we went back and Mr. Gutschall got into an altercation with me and yelled?
Yes, they were.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
We just-
they've accused me of being a liar too. So
We just, on this case, it was a disagreement.
Well, it must have been pretty bad for me to say I've had enough.
Obviously it was.
After 16
Yeah.
years, and constantly, when I'm in his office, if I go to talk about something, it ends up in an argument, and you're not running it like Mr. Henry, or you voted against me. So that is all I want to say, but
Okay.
I wanted to get it clear, and I hope the people at home are still watching, since you falsely accused me, never said what happened in the
I
beginning
just
of that
disagree
meeting.
in the interpretation, that's all. That's all. That's all. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. All right.
I am not going to argue, but I think the board has a responsibility after listening to what Mrs. Lindsay said, and I'm telling you, she doesn't lie. And don't you laugh at me either.
Am I laughing, sir?
Don't you laugh at me.
Am I laughing?
All right, let's.
You laughed at my wife because you have no respect for her. I think what you ought to do, I don't know if you're the new chair or not, I wasn't watching the meeting tonight. But if you guys on this board are really concerned about this township and these people here, you'll do an investigation and include the employees, because right now they are scared to death to do anything. And I don't know if this is the first time you've heard it or not, but I'm telling you right here in a public meeting, that is the truth. They are afraid to do anything at all in fear for retaliation, including being fired. And I'm not making this up. I'm being totally honest with you guys, because I'll tell you what this looks like to me. I remember way back when we had a school board that wanted to join these schools together. And you know what happened? The public got together and said, we're not going to tolerate it. And Mr. McCormick, you said you work for 55,000 residents. Well, guess what? There's an election coming. You're going to find out exactly what they think of you and any other member that runs.
That's fine, Joe.
So,
Listen, if
so
I could
I
ask
hope,
if I
Mr.
could ask
Chairman,
one favor.
excuse me, I'm talking to the
Go ahead.
chairman.
Go
You're the
ahead.
new guy.
Go ahead, sir.
Learn your job first, Mr. McCormick.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if you really are responsible, you need to do what I just asked you to do, and you won't have these meetings anymore. You won't have the uproar you have in this community. But what the perception is, you've turned a blind eye, and you've got two guys here that are running roughshod over the administration of this township. And you need to do something, because this is the worst shape this township has been in for years and years and years and years, and the residents deserve much better. And if you don't like working here, Mr. Miller, you ought to quit instead of working a second job on township time. I end my comments. Thank you.
All right. That's.
If I could just ask you one thing.
Wait.
Accusation. Mrs. Lindsay made a specific accusation that she went to lunch with an employee, and that specific employee was told if they ever did it again that they would be fired. Please give me the name of the individual so that I can verify what was told to that person was told that they would be fired in those circumstances. That's a specific allegation that we can do an investigation of, okay? That would be very appropriate. Thank you.
All right. Ma'am.
The way that's going to happen is if the Board of Supervisors puts out a blanket order and invites the employees to come forward, letting them know they are going to be protected and not be subject to any retaliatory action by the management. Because if you don't do it, ladies and gentlemen, no one's going to come forward.
We received the.
Excuse me, I am answering your question.
I'm answering yours.
Be a supervisor first.
All right. We have a citizen waiting to talk.
Thank you. Okay. Love your 10 months on the job, because it's going to end soon.
All right. Ma'am, your name, please.
My name is Marjorie Phillips, and I live at 6626 Jordan Drive. I want to go back to Mr. Johnson's comments at the beginning of this meeting at the public session. I just would like to know, we in Hodges Heights have had to wait for this playground, and I would like to know if there's going to be a response to his asking you about the filth and noise and so forth at the facility.
I know We've been working on that for years, not to his satisfaction.
Right, years.
I understand.
I've lived in the community
Right.
out there since 1968.
I understand,
And so
yes.
I just want to know if I have to wait another 50 years for
it's
the
constantly,
return for
and
the,
frankly, there's a lot of things that, these are things we like to be able to spend our time talking about. And these are things I want us, the work, the grunt work, this is the stuff I want us to be talking about. And I'm looking forward to getting to a place where we can be talking about these things. But we have a consultant's report coming up to look about the operation, I think the physical layout, but also the financial, how's it doing financially? That's going to be coming up this year. And his individual issues are something I know from the top down, people have been made aware of, and they're working on it. The noise and things like that, particularly, I think he works at night, I believe. So we have not done it to his satisfaction yet, but it remains an issue.
I just don't want it to wait another 50 years. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. Okay, we've done things out of order. We're up to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, so moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. We are not meeting in executive session.